where you store all your data, whether it's pushed to one lake via data factory, used with Power BI, or wrangled with data science and data warehousing, it's still stored in the one lake, which creates a centralized value or centralized truth on your data, based on intelligent data foundation, whatever that may be. It's a bit vague. But Microsoft is working really hard on the roadmap of Fabric and adding exciting features every couple of weeks. But the most important thing, it's a single solution. It's a single SaaS solution. Everything that uses your data and writes your data towards it is stored in one suite. This is where Fabric starts to behave like an integration platform. Data active. Based on input, whether it's data in your data warehouse, whether it's a trigger that's generated from your real-time intelligence, whether it's a file that gets pushed to a storage account, based on triggers in the data activator and actions that start those triggers, other actions can be started. And in this case, this is a Teams message, an Outlook, a mail that's been sent, our automate job that runs, or custom, which gives us the flexibility and do everything we want. So based on actions that can come from your integration services, we can create custom workflows. And the workflows are triggered by the data activator, and the data activator, the data activator is defined by rules and triggers. So what should trigger, and when does that trigger gets triggered, or based on what rule? How do we model that rule into a bigger model? Is this a bit clear? I think this is basically what logic app triggers also does, what event-based logic apps can do, I can imagine. Let's look into the architecture. And the next slide will be a bit, or can be a bit overwhelming. Let me talk through it from left to right. When we are building an analytics platform or a data platform, this is typically an architecture that we use. The only thing is, this is data factory. That's our data platform. What we are doing is we are extracting data from different data sources, whether it's an unstructured source like a video or an image or an audio file, whether it's log files in JSON or XML, or whether it's structured data like your ERP or CRM. All that data is extracted towards your one lake. One lake, centralized storage, is the main component within this architecture. Based on that data, we are using stored procedures, we are using notebooks to wrangle this data and transform it from raw data, as we say, bronze data in the analytics world. We transform it and move it up to gold data, and that's our information. That gold data is then stored within this layer, and from this layer we can share it into dashboard, reports, or applications. So from source data to store it, to transform it, to deliver insights. High-level data platform architecture, really short, I can imagine. What makes this a bit different from a standard out-of-the-box data platform architecture? We are leveraging Azure integration services. And this is where it gets interesting, because a data platform, if we are only using data factory is very limited. It's really great at batch processes. But if we are using data factory for near real-time insights and triggering a data factory pipeline every 5 minutes, I don't think the client will be happy, because the credit card bill for the Azure subscription not going to happen. The strength of Azure integration services is, if we go back to the characteristics of integration services, is to handle message-based high volume, but mostly because of high velocity of the data. Data comes in at high speed, can be processed at high speeds. Not necessarily high volume per message, but a lot of messages. So the advantage of this architecture is to choose your integration pattern based on the data characteristics, application characteristics, or use case characteristics, and choose that specific integration pattern and deliver data from the source systems via those integration patterns towards the one lake as well. And then on the left side, data activator, event detection. What we can do, and this is actually the thing that we will dive into a little bit more, looking at the time, yes, we will dive into that, is how can we trigger this upward stream, so from the Fabric 1 lake up until report, based on events, so we can create a near real-time analytics, event-driven analytics architecture. So this is the scenario I want to talk you through, and don't worry, I'm not going to show you reports because you can also view that on YouTube. It's not that interesting. So think of this part of the slide. What we are going to do is we are going to use input files, example files, upload them on one lake. That's my upload button is the simulation of your integration platform. Don't think of that badly. Upload the files to one lake based on an activator that's running. That file is recognized, the trigger gets started, and the Fabric pipeline is triggered based on our activator job. The Fabric pipeline, equivalent of your data factory pipeline, acts as an orchestrator. It can orchestrate all kinds of stuff. It can orchestrate an Azure function, or as we call it in Fabric, a notebook. It can store your data in a lakehouse, or a Cosmos DB, or an ODS storage, for example, SQL database. And then we go to the reports. Let's focus on the left side. And you might have noticed that I'm using Fabric components in my talk as well as integration services components. They are kind of interchangeable here, not one-to-one, but they are kind of similar. If you're talking about one lake, yeah, one lake is also kind of what we are doing with a storage account, right? Yes, it is just a couple of storage accounts together. When we're talking about activator, it's a logical trigger, event-based. Fabric pipelines are logical workflows or data factories. Fabric notebook is just an Azure function. Well, it's comparable to an Azure function. The only difference is Azure function can run serverless, while a notebook runs on a Spark cluster. And a lakehouse is just storage. It stores it on a data lake, but conceptually it's just storage. Just like your Cosmos DB or Azure SQL database, it's just storage. But still, if we are using these components that are on the screen right now, we can create this flow all in near real time. And if we are using this end-to-end near real time, we create near real time Power BI insights. And that's a big advantage comparing to your data factory flow, which runs once a day. Now you might ask, well, that's all nice, but I have these Fabric components, I have my integration services equivalent, I can build this end-to-end pipeline, removing these two, maybe these three, and I can create this also event-based near real time. Why should I care using the Fabric components? Why not integration services? And this is interesting because with leveraging Fabric and Lakehouse, where the history of all data is stored from all the messages that came in from the last couple of years, we have a big database with data lake or whatever storage of history with data. And if one message comes in, we also have Microsoft Fabric to create a trend on the historical data and compare the incoming message to the trend that is created over time. So we can do anomaly detection, real-time analytics based on a message that comes in. Hey, this order value is way higher than what's normal over the last 12 months. Let's contact this customer proactively because the order value might be incorrect. Or so comparing the message that comes in to the history data that's already in the lakehouse really creates the combined added value of integration services and Microsoft Fabric. So compare real-time events to history. Basically, that's the thing. Operational plus analytical. Let's go into the demo. Fingers crossed, it's a live demo. Yep. So what we are going to do is have a look at Microsoft Fabric. When you open Microsoft Fabric, this is the workspace or window that you get to see. And you already see all the different kinds of things you can do in Microsoft Fabric. You can do data analysis, you can create your medallion architecture, your bronze, silver, gold, I talked about a bit. You have insights based on data, a lot of stuff. And all this stuff can be
bucketed or combined into workspaces. Let's look at our activator demo in this case. So what we are going to do, going back to this one a bit, we are leveraging activator to trigger a pipeline, in this case a Fabric pipeline based on input files that are placed on a storage account. Just to give you a brief insight, it's not that exciting, I would say, but to give you a brief insight on what we can do with Fabric and maybe compare it a bit to what Azure Integration Services can also. So we have our activator, and this activator actually says, well, I want to monitor something, which is an event. In this case, it's a storage account event, a block create event, should we call it with Logic, for example. And we can create a condition. In this case, I just want every block create event to trigger my activator. I want to define an action. In this case, like we saw in this slide, you can create several actions you see on the right side. In this case, I chose to run a pipeline, and my pipeline, let's look at the pipeline, it's just empty. It's a blank canvas for purposes of demo, but to give you a brief insight, what can we do in a pipeline, and also to make a comparison between Fabric pipelines, data factory pipelines. This is what we can do. Pipeline acts as an orchestrator, like your Logic app. Logic app triggers a function, the pipeline triggers a notebook. So you can create a data flow or trigger a data flow, trigger a notebook. So it's the orchestrator end-to-end of your whole analytic process. What we are doing in the activator is just trigger the pipeline based on every block create event on our storage account. That is what is defined here. So what we are going to do, this is my storage account. We are going to upload our file. I have just an example file ready here. It's just an empty txt just to give you an insight on what's going to happen. File is uploaded, and this is my simulation, my Janneke simulation of your integration platform. Sorry for that. Uploading a file. We're going back. If all went well, we should have a second event. I tested it this afternoon, and also here, our activator is triggered again. We can also see here in the logs, if I scroll down a bit, that is the block create event that is triggered by my upload of my empty txt action. So what it should have done is also trigger our pipeline. If I go to that pipeline, if I go to run, click view history, then we should see this one is not started yet, and that's the thing with SaaS applications, SaaS services. You are a bit dependent on Microsoft handling things on the background, but it is scheduled. So based on the file that's been placed on our one lake, in this case, one lake, the shell around our storage account, the pipeline has been triggered. Might not be that exciting, but I think this enables us to a lot of things. Event-driven analytics based on real-time data coming in, it's big, it's huge. For analytics, this is really huge. So what? Now what? Back to the slides. So now what? What does this add to your work, your day-to-day job? Where does the added value lie? I think a couple of key takeaways. I also told in the beginning, I hope they will stick to you the rest of the evening and maybe the rest of your career. It's a big high grasp. Fabric, Azure Integration Services, they are stronger together. They both have their own strength, maybe their own weaknesses, but that's why they complement each other. And end-to-end pipelines from data creation, manual inputs in your ERP, towards predictive value through Power BI or Spark or data science, that end-to-end chain of services, they are stronger together. You build the highways and Fabric drives the insights. Activator is really the service or the component within Fabric that bridges the gap between integration services and Fabric. Fabric
Yes, we can trigger also the pipeline every 10 minutes. Yeah, expensive. We can also trigger it once a day. Then we have a delay in value. Activator really makes sure that everything that's been done on the integration platform is leveraged near real time on the analytics platform. Same triggers, broader reach, turning automation into insights. Gotta love changing. And think in data products, and this is really the key takeaway that I want to give to you. Because I think if you are building an integration, building your integration platform, it's about connecting systems and delivering data from A to B. But if you are working with that data and delivering it to applications, please also deliver it to us so we can create our insights based on your data in Fabric. So design your integrations not just for integrations, but for application integration, but also for analytical value. So the main point, analytics is the consumer of your integrations. Thanks. Do we have some time for there are questions? Oh, there are questions. Yeah. Yeah, we can. Let's go.
Yes, I have a question. Sure. How about the implementation part? Like, what do you see at customers when you want to implement like this better together story? How does that fit in with customer? What are the obstacles that you see? For example, what I see at some customers is that they have split distinction between the data department and their integration department. These are split teams. So what do you do then? How would you approach it? What's your take on it?
I also see several challenges there. So I acknowledge them. In that case, in that regard, that the usage of data within your analytics platform is quite different than from an analytics platform, analytics perspective. I'm also looking at all our integrations architect, that anthological project I was talking about. We have a lot of discussion because integration, we only need the order header and send it through to another application. I also want the order lines because I want to do some analysis on them. So based on the use cases that we have in analytics platform that differ from your integration scenario, there are different requirements. And if your analytics platform is always consumer of your integration platform, then the integration backlog is really big. And we are constantly waiting as analytics team. And that's not a negative towards the integration guys, because we're working really hard, but they have all the work to do, which we can also do within our data factory. So choose wisely whether it goes through the integration platform or directly to your data platform, which is also still an option, and make that decision based on, is my data only used within the analytics platform or also in other applications? If it's widely used across applications and also in analytics, then let it flow through the integration platform. If it's only used in analytics, just extract it directly towards the analytics platform. Don't stick to that integration pattern where everything goes through an ODS or everything goes through your integration layer, only where it adds value. That's the point.
Thanks.
Other questions?
What about the pricing model of this?
Pricing
Model,
Yeah, Fabric is capacity based. So you don't necessarily pay per use. On the other hand, if you buy a capacity, you buy a certain amount of credits, and everything you do in Fabric costs a certain amount of credits. So you pay per use, but if you don't use your credits, then you still have to pay for them. It goes up like ×2, so you have an F2, you have an F4, F8, F16, etc., and the price also doubles. You can reserve your capacity for a year. I can imagine in the near future you can also reserve capacity for 3 years in advance, but they are not doing that right now because Fabric has to be a bit mature for that, I would say. Also, customers are starting to leverage Fabric, so their workloads are not that predictable yet. But based on the capacity that you buy every month, the amount of credits that you buy, everything in Fabric is using those credits. If you go back a couple of slides. So if I view a report, it uses credits. That's a color credit. If I run a pipeline, it uses everything that we are doing, whether it's from the IT side or business side, uses that same capacity model. What you also can do, and this makes it interesting, you can buy several capacities, one for each business domain. So you can create your costs for your data platform, you can forward them towards the business. And it's not an IT cost. It makes an organization thing, and also makes the business think of challenges and solutions and value because they have to pay for them. That makes it interesting. Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Small present.